What does fun smell like? What does success smell like? What does motivation smell like? Hello, my name is Tiffany Rose Goodyear and I own Sentology, located in Denver, Colorado. Today you are joining me at the beautiful Jacquard Hotel located in Cherry Creek. So how did I start thinking about scenting events? Well, I own a dessert catering company in Denver, and my background is in marketing. So telling stories through desserts became our specialty, and really thinking about how a desserted experience and stimulating touch, taste, and smell can be so powerful in order to enhance a guest experience. So moving beyond that, I realized that smell was the one thing in the event industry most people are not thinking about. So I started scenting things. And by using my catering company and pairing that with scents, I have grown to understand how to use complementary flavors and fragrances to elevate an experience, why it's important to do that, and the feedback that I've received from guests all over the country has been overwhelmingly positive. It's important to think about scent during your event experiences because at the end of the day, they're scented anyway. Whether it's a musky old space or a new build that smells like construction materials, you're inviting your guests to have an experience in a space without even considering one of the most important physical senses. Our sense of smell is the only sensory receptor that's fully developed at the time of birth, and it's most closely linked to our memory. Why is that important for events? Because we take the time and consideration to make every other single detail strategic and meaningful to tell a story. And if we're not incorporating scent, we're missing an opportunity. I've created a framework with 5 elements to think about how to incorporate scent into your events. Whether you're having a huge blowout Hawaiian luau themed decor where you want pineapple and coconut wafting through the room, or it's a lot more of a stark event for educational or training purposes, either one of those at either end of the spectrum can benefit from the addition of scent. If you don't have a specific theme for your event, you can always draw from the seasonality of it or time of day. For example, cinnamon and nutmeg are great in the fall and winter, while citrus, green tea, and thyme are wonderful for springtime and summer. The second step in the framework is to think about the other smells in the room. As mentioned before, venues smell. All spaces have a unique smell. And if you're bringing in food and florals, you're adding scent to a space, but not necessarily doing it strategically. What I recommend when thinking about what to scent a particular event as, it's important to think about the food that you're serving, how it's being served, and if you were bringing florals or decor in that may have their own fragrance. Thinking about food and scent, it's important to think about them in the way that you would pair them and complement them. They don't need to have the exact same flavor profiles, but they need to add to the experience of the food and not detract. For example, I did an event that served desserts and coffee. The fragrance that I chose was a fresh mint flavor. The herbal lightness of the mint complemented the desserts as well as the aroma of coffee, which has a very robust smell. The third item in the framework is venue size. It's really important to take into consideration not only the floor plan, but the height of the ceilings in any given space. I did an event once based on a floor plan, and I didn't do a walkthrough until the day of, which was detrimental because in this old architecture, it literally went up 13 stories into the atrium. Being that I had all the necessary equipment on hand, I was able to accommodate for that, but thinking about these things in advance is always to your advantage. Other things that can affect the event space are airflow and the movement of bodies. So if it's really cold inside and really hot outside, that can change the molecular structure of the fragrance. And you just want to make sure you have somebody monitoring that throughout the event. It is possible to over scent an event, and that is the last thing you want to do because it can be very uncomfortable and it does not meet your goals. Number 4 is timeline. Sometimes when you're scenting an event, it doesn't make sense to just blast a scent from start to finish when there's other things going on in the space. I often recommend scenting just registration as guests are arriving and creating a really impactful experience. Or you can do a cocktail hour is another nice way to pair a cocktail with the scent. If you're having a food heavy or food focused event, I don't always recommend scenting during that period. But then again, I mentioned desserts earlier. Desserts are another great course to think about pairing a scent with. And afterwards, an entertainment perspective of adding scent. I've had the opportunity to work with various DJs to scent entertainment experiences with them, as well as virtual reality experiences. So thinking about scent in different facets of the event throughout the entire timeline is recommended. Finally, and I would say most importantly, when you think about scenting an event, you really want to think about what is the guest experience you want your audience to have. Whether that is a learning experience, like an education, you probably want to use a lighter scent with more citrusy notes that are energizing, as opposed to using something like lavender, which tends to be more relaxing, which is great if that is the journey that you want to take your guests on. I recommend using heavier base notes like tobacco and vanilla and chocolate for evening events because they're a little bit more sultry. And again, you're trying to create that guest experience, and this is your opportunity to tell that story in a meaningful way. The one tip that I would leave you with, should you decide to scent your event, is controlled monitoring. Making sure that somebody is on site paying attention to the experience so it is the best for all of your attendees. At the end of the day, it is my goal for you to even consider scent in a new and different way than you have for any of your previous events. Knowing that the venue that you are hosting an event in, whether indoors or outdoors, is already scented. Being aware that there are aspects of an event that you are bringing into a space that can create a scent experience, whether strategically or not, for your guests. But also knowing there are tools out there for you to really use scent in order to encourage the most immersive, amazing guest experience that you can.